Hey everybody, welcome to Blasters and Dreams. This is episode 3. For those of you that have been along on the first couple episodes, thanks for following along and sticking with me. We're through with The Rise of Skywalker and that long review, which if you're new to the channel, I'll put a card here so you can link to that and check it out. We're on to The Mandalorian, which hopefully all of you have seen. If you haven't, there will be some spoilers in this. But it's been enough time that I think all of you probably have checked it out. And for those of you that are new to the channel, thanks for checking it out. And if you like this video, take a second and hit the like button below. And then if you haven't subscribed yet, please do. I'm going to try to bring videos every week just focused on Star Wars and all the new content that's coming out and some of my favorite things along the way. And it's going to be a fun ride. On this video, what I'm going to do is break down each of the episodes, and I'm going to do it in a way that is a bit of a throwback to one of my dad's favorite westerns. So we're going to break each episode down into the good, the bad, and the beskar. So the good and the bad are self-explanatory. The beskar is where I'm going to take a piece of content that I think is something that maybe people might not be familiar with from Star Wars lore that was brought out in the episode and just talk about that a little bit. We're going to try to keep this down to about 6 minutes. I'm going to call this series 6 Minutes with Mando. So let's get into it. All right, let's start with the good. There's a lot of good in this episode, but we want to keep this focused on my favorite thing, and that was the IG-11 shootout. I know the Mando was there, but I've watched this a couple times now, and IG-11 owns this scene at the compound. We've been exposed to IG series only once, if you've just watched the films, and that was on the deck of the Star Destroyer in Empire Strikes Back, where he did not move. So we weren't sure what his capabilities were. If you're in my age bracket, you may have fought against him on the Nintendo 64 in Shadows of the Empire at the end of an impossibly difficult mission on a train. But that was a long time ago, and we haven't seen anything since. So when he showed up in this episode, I wasn't sure what to expect. It was great to see him performed by Taika Waititi, and he so delivered on this. The motion, the 360 views, the dual wielding, the pinpoint precision. Why not have a thermal detonator just in case? Everything about IG-11 in this was just tremendous. And I wish that we would have even more time with him than what we're going to end up having in the series. He was great. The delivery was perfect. The running gag with the self-destruct was the right amount of humor to offset the intensity of the fight. And of course, if you finish the series, you know that comes back to be an important thing later on. But that was just they really did a great job. I just watched it again last night, and you almost forget to breathe most of the time, except to cheer every time he pivots around a different way and shoots someone behind him, and just the vision, the receptacles turning independently of each other, the way he walks and just can pivot over things, and just great. Let's move on to the bad. I had a hard time finding something that I really thought was bad in this episode. And so you'll see that this is a very nitpicky thing, and I don't want to get too bogged down in it, but I noticed it the first time I saw it, and it's gotten a little bit worse each time I've watched it since. Queel, our beloved Ugnaught sage character out in his peaceful valley, not so peaceful anymore. I love his delivery. We all love the catchphrase, and we've started to use it here with the kids.
I have spoken.
But man, I wish they could have done a little bit of a better job with the way his mouth moves when he talks. Yeah, that's a very minor point, and it's not anything to get hung up on. And I love that he's practical, and it's not a CG thing, but they needed just a little bit more movement in the mouth, because the way his mouth moves when he speaks just doesn't match up. And I know he's not human, and maybe that's just the physiology of his species, but it reminded me a lot of the Neimoidians and the way their mouths moved in the Phantom Menace, and that's not really a great comparison to live up to. But it doesn't detract from the character. It just detracts from it pulls you out of the moment a little bit when he speaks, and you see the mouth just can only do so much, and it just wasn't quite there. Finally, let's move on to the beskar, my favorite bit of lore that was brought out. And funny enough, in this chapter, it is beskar. If you're not familiar with that term, that is the name of the metal that's used in Mandalorian armor. It can only be found on Mandalore, and it's very rare. It can deflect blaster bolts, which we see throughout the series, and makes every stormtrooper in the galaxy extremely jealous. I mean, they're used to not being able to withstand uh, gentle pokes with a stick and a few rocks falling on their heads, and this guy's taking blaster shots all over the place, and he's fine. It can also deflect lightsabers. It can withstand lightsabers to a great degree, which will come in handy possibly in season 2 now that the dark saber has come into play. I said there were spoilers, so don't get mad about that part. Um, we don't really know a lot about Beskar if you're just following on in the films. We've only seen the armor and seen it on Django, you've seen it on Boba, but we're never exposed to the backstory of it. If you're familiar with the Clone Wars and even Rebels, you've gotten a little bit more information. But I just like the fact that they're taking the time to bring that Mandalorian culture out. As you've seen, Beskar can be broken down and reforged into other pieces of armor. They've used them as binders in some of the Star Wars Legends novels to be able to hold Jedi since they can't cut through. Um, it's just a rare and tremendous piece of armor and metal, and I'm glad that they spent some time bringing that out and bringing it into the forefront of Star Wars. All right, that's it for this video. Again, if you liked it, go ahead and hit the like button below. If you haven't yet, please subscribe, and I'll be back next week with another 6 minutes of Mando on Chapter 2. Thanks. See you guys.